Welcome to What Matters, a podcast that looks inward at unique experiences, upward for divine direction, and outward at God's activity in our world. I'm Michelle Funk, your host, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. I'm delighted to introduce you today to Stacey Sands. And I welcome you to the podcast today. You're a member of Resurrection, our church. You attend the West Campus. Thank you for joining us today, Stacey.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. So I wanted just to have a conversation with you. You're the mom of Hudson, and I want to just hear Hudson's story and learn from it and be inspired by this just precious, precious son of yours. Tell us a little bit about Hudson.
Absolutely. So he would have just celebrated his 7th birthday on August 21st, and he was an amazing kid, very energetic, active. We like to use the word feisty, and just lovable, and loved school. As you may be able to tell, he is now in heaven. He got diagnosed in October of 2019 with DIPG, which is diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, and it's an inoperable, incurable tumor in the brainstem. And so he fought for 14 months and, fought bravely and was just an incredible source of hope and inspiration and, himself, but even amplified through his disease. And he did go to heaven in December of last year. And so, just an amazing kid.
Yeah. I'm just so sorry for your loss. I want you to know that. I want to just know Hudson, though. And so thank you for sharing just any bit about him. He seems to me like maybe just, first of all, lovable, but perhaps a little ornery when you talk about feisty. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So do you have some really fun little stories of him just as a little guy?
He would beat to his own drum, and literally. So he loved just banging on instruments or yelling at the top of his lungs, announcing his presence wherever he went. And so, that kind of big personality, and people were just drawn to him. And he would give what we would call Hudson hugs, and they were just huge hugs. And he was kind of an equal opportunity hug giver. Everybody at the school, or, he was not shy.
Love that.
Yes.
I love it. Nothing better than a lovable little boy like that.
Yeah.
So what did you notice? How did you even come across knowing that something was going on, something was wrong?
Well, he began to have very quick bouts of severe headaches, and then he would run to the bathroom and get sick, and then it would go away and be just fine. And that happened over maybe a 2-week period, 3 or 4 times, so not a lot, and we weren't sure what was going on. And I contacted his pediatrician, and she sent me right down to, the Children's Mercy ER. Yeah. And that's where he was diagnosed.
Yeah, gosh.
And there are a lot of different ways that this particular tumor, DIPG, can present itself, because in your brainstem, you have a lot of functions that are controlled. So things like eyesight, blurred vision, stroke-like symptoms, paralysis on half of your body, and then headaches and vomiting are 2 of the main indicators of a potential problem. And so that's how he was diagnosed. And otherwise, he was in perfect health.
Yeah. Well, it's important to notice, isn't it, when something's going on with our kiddos.
Absolutely.
And then act. And it's exactly what you did. And thankfully, your pediatrician also seemed to act quickly. So
absolutely.
Yeah. That's what we hope for when we, are caring for our kiddos. So is this cancer particular to little kids?
It is.
Yeah.
On average, I believe it's 5 to 9-year-olds.
Okay.
That may be just, it's rough, but that get diagnosed.
Yeah.
And there's about 300 cases a year in the United States.
Wow.
It's literally a 1 in a million chance. Wow. They call it rare, but it's only rare until your child, gets diagnosed. And now I know so many families that are either in the fight or their kids are in heaven with Hudson. So it's a very close-knit group, and it's the opposite of rare at this point in our lives and many others.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it was before Hudson got diagnosed, and most people don't.
Right.
Before their child gets cancer, or especially this form of cancer.
Yeah. I can only imagine you've learned a lot. And also the whole funding around pediatric cancer. What have you learned about that?
Well, it's extremely underfunded when it comes to pediatric cancer, and especially brain tumors and DIPG. The more specific you get, the less funding, obviously. And so, there are big foundations out there. A couple of them, the one that we have now partnered with is called Chad Tough Defeat DIPG, and they are doing amazing things with funding for research and starting clinical trials, working closely with some of the top doctors in the nation. And I started a family chapter of that called Hudsons Hope. And so that's kind of how we're continuing to carry on his legacy and to push for more money to help with research so that other families don't have to go through the
horror
that we have just been through, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. So Hudsons Hope, there's a website for that?
It's Hudsons-Hope.
Okay. And we'll be sure.
.com.
Yeah. We'll be sure to share that as well. And you're doing some work around that. Is that something you'll continue for a while, you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The primary, like right now, the primary focus of it, and it could evolve over time, but probably not a lot, is to honor Hudson, to raise awareness, and to raise research for Chad Tough Defeat DIPG. Okay. And so I have a blog, and I update it fairly regularly. And then we have a Hudsons Hope Facebook group as well, that we have, I think, over 4,000 members now that have followed his story and continue to carry on, his light. Yeah.
Oh, that's, it's a tangible way to put some action, along with this process of grieving, So tell me just a little bit, if you will, about grief. What has been helpful to you? Has there been anything that's been helpful to come alongside you?
Yes. Obviously it's just incredibly painful, and you don't know what each day is going to bring. Waves of grief, numbness, then you'll feel okay for a little bit, maybe distracted from it. But there are definitely ways that have helped, or some things that I would say a couple of the main ones would be the group of moms that I am connected with that all have DIPG kiddos in heaven. Yeah. There are over 20 of us that talk every day through a chat string and share the ups, the downs, everything about it. And we're actually planning on a retreat later this year. And so that has been just a huge source of support. And then I would just say the community around us, our church family, our community within our neighborhood. And, there were some amazing gestures of kindness, especially while he was in the fight. A huge parade, a vigil one night around Christmas with caroling, just, meals and those kinds of things. Yeah. And now, and the school has, honored him, and my former coworkers gave us a bench. It's a dedication to him in our yard, and those are the kinds of tangible things that you can feel and really lend themselves to giving you hope each day and help you put one foot in front of the other. And then, of course, faith. And so, my faith, it's definitely been shaken through this. It's something that really just shakes you to the core. And I find a lot of faith in signs. And so I may just read one of the books I've been reading. I've been reading several grief and loss books. But Healing After Loss is a gift a friend gave to me. And just yesterday, there was a passage that really spoke to me. It says, "What if prayer is sometimes nothing more than being attentive to what is going on? Perhaps in paying attention, we can welcome God into our lives, our joys and sorrows, as one who is also paying attention, and in that attentiveness understands and shares our sorrow, even as God's love wraps us around in God's mystery and makes us feel we're going to make it home. God is present in my joy and in my sorrow." And that just really spoke to me because I feel his presence when I pay attention and I see signs. Hearts are kind of the main sign, whether it's a cloud or a rock or a leaf, almost daily. And, just little things that remind me that I will be reunited with Hudson someday.
Yeah. It's faith. It's hard to describe faith, isn't it? But you did.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really just a beautiful description of steadfast faith. That I think sometimes we think that our faith is always going to be happy, clappy, and easy, and wonderful, and lovely, and but it's important nonetheless. I mean, it can carry us through really, really hard things. And the way you describe it, it seems like that your faith is doing that in some degree. Yeah.
Yes, it's what gives me hope. So that is, the two are intertwined.
Yeah. And the name of your foundation, Hudson's Hope. I mean, you can hear hope as you talk about him. So the journey that he had from diagnosis all the way through. I know you said you could talk about that a long, long time. Do you want to just share maybe a little bit about that?
Sure. So when he was first diagnosed, we ended up getting into a clinical trial. I did a lot of research to determine what clinical trials might be available, since there, again, was no treatment that was a sure thing. That was the first goal, was to get into a clinical trial.
Yeah.
And so we went down to MD Anderson in Houston, and he started the clinical trial and started radiation. So we were there for about 2 months, my husband and I, and Hudson. And then on her school breaks, my daughter would join us. So over Thanksgiving and Christmas break, she was able to be with us. And thankfully with my brother's family here in Kansas City when she was unable, when she had school. And so that, I could go on about that too, the family separation and what that kind of entails, but it was very hard. And but he took those treatments like a champ. He would run in with his cape on to go into radiation. And, you just come across so many wonderful individuals, both, people that you knew previously and former strangers that put their arms around you. And the acts of kindness were overwhelming. So we were there for about 2 months, and then we came home. And he had what they call a rainbow period after radiation, which meant that the tumor had shrunk and he was symptom-free for several months. And so we were home in February, and then I would say August, his symptoms really started to flare up again. And we ended up transferring to one of the top DIPG research doctors in the nation up in Michigan at Mott's Children's Hospital. And we went there for another round. It's called re-radiation, and they did 10 rounds. And that was in August, September. And then we came back to Kansas City, and the next day he got to start kindergarten. And he was elated.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a kid that loved going to kindergarten as much as he did.
Yeah.
And he didn't have much of a rainbow period after that. He started to decline again, motor function. I remember November 15th, he could no longer walk. So he was in a wheelchair. He still wanted to go to school. The kids would fight over who got to push him.
Yeah.
So he still was in a great mood and able to go to school for a couple more weeks. And then, after that, the decline was too steep and we had to keep him home, which selfishly, it would have been easy to keep him home the whole time. But he loved his friends and school so much that we let him go. And he just loved it.
Yeah. And kids are amazing, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
So strong and, maybe much stronger than, everything he went through. So many, he had a port and pokes and MRIs and unsedated MRIs where you lay in a machine for an hour, still, and just on and on, everything he went through, and just maintained this uplifting, positive, hope-filled attitude the whole way.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked a little bit to me about he would say prayers and such. So he was just this little guy full of faith as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He knew the Lord's Prayer by heart when he was 4, and he would say it with me every night.
Yeah.
And he was so faith-filled for such a little guy. And his favorite song, one thing that reminds me of his faith is his favorite song was 10,000 Reasons, Bless the Lord. And he would sing it, karaoke it, and he loved to sing and dance. So yes, definitely faith-filled. And he would say, Easter is my favorite holiday because Jesus is risen. And that's always stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. He is just a sense of inspiration for sure.
He is to me still.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll never, ever change, so.
No.
Yay. And you find still that hope lives, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
It's easier some days than others, but it does.
Yeah. Good.
And I feel a lot of it is also, what would he want for my life, for our family's life, for those he loved? So oftentimes when I catch myself crying or sorrowful, which of course happens fairly frequently, I think about how he would have reacted if he saw me crying, which was rare. He would start to cry, Mommy, what's wrong? What's wrong, Mommy? Are you okay? And be so concerned. And so I kind of have that picture in my mind of he would want me and everyone he loved to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. He sounds like he has empathy and yet courage, faith, and lots of love.
Absolutely.
If we all can just try to live our lives with those things, in Hudson's honor.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah, that would probably be a really cool way to live. That's for sure.
That would be the best way to honor him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know that you talked a little bit about the support that you received from the church and all, and the parades. I saw some of that on Facebook. That was really pretty cool. So I hope that still continues, that there's some church support you're still gaining from and feeling along the way. And if not, church, get with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, we just love hearing about Hudson. We have some pictures we're going to share as well. And you've also offered some video to share. And so we'll just take delight as we close out with those and offer those for everyone to be able to be inspired by Hudson. Okay, I didn't even ask, what's his full name?
Hudson Thomas Sands.
Yay. And the story behind his name?
Hudson was just a name that my husband Todd and I both loved.
Yeah.
My daughter is older, and if she would have been a boy, she would have been Hudson. And so we stuck with it.
Good.
And then Thomas is my dad's name.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting us know, Hudson. Even better. and for your work that you're doing to just carry hope forward with Hudsons Hope, the organization, and kind of the call for all of us to pay attention, to notice things in our children, to take action when it's necessary, and then also just for everyone to somehow stand with pediatric cancer research, either through funding or research as far as learning about it, becoming more knowledgeable. So
Definitely.
yeah.
All those things are so important.
Yeah.
And there's one phrase I'd love to end with, which is, there are some whose light shines so bright that it remains even once they are gone. And to me, that's Hudson in a nutshell. He just spread his light, and he continues to do so from heaven.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
I just love your story. That's what matters. And thank you all for joining us. I want you to stay tuned to some of the videos that we're going to share about Hudson. So enjoy. We'll see you next time. That's just beautiful, that saying. Thank you.
Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. And 1, 2, 3, Jesus is alive. 1, 2, 3, Jesus rose again. 1, 2, 3, Jesus is alive. 1, 2, 3, Jesus rose again. 1. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul, worship Your holy name. The sun comes out, it shines new day dawning. It's time. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but lead us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Good job.